gentlemen, and welcome back to Tech Showdown. My name is Kevin. This is Teddy. I got the jacket back on today, but it's still really hot, so we're just going to have to jump through this quite fast today, but I wanted to bring it back because I know you guys love it. And today we're talking about the MSI Apache GE60, and this is the 2PL model, not the 2PE. So this is a basically an entry-level gaming laptop, sort of to compete with the Acer Nitro, I believe. So without further ado, let's jump straight into it. I'd also say this is a good laptop for those people, not just someone who wants a entry-level gaming laptop, you know, to use as their main computer, but also for people that have a powerful desktop like me that want a gaming laptop that's not, you know, just powerful enough that when you go away or something like that, or you're away from your rig, you still have something you can game on. So let's talk about the exterior first, and as you can see, it looks pretty plain to say the least. This looks like, I mean, this is a fingerprint magnet at the back here. This looks like, you know, brushed aluminium. It's just plastic. Plastic, fantastic. And you see on the base, it's a similar affair. Just all plastic. Nothing too out of the ordinary. The only things that really liven it up on the back here are the MSI logo and their Republic of Gamers logo. Looking around the sides, it's all pretty standard as well. Decent size-wise. I mean, it's not too thin, but it's not too thick. As far as gaming laptop goes, that's okay. Open. There we go. So this is what it looks like on the inside. Pretty standard again. It's got this like plasticky brushed aluminium. I don't know. Overall, looks-wise, I find it a little bit bland. It has these red accents on above the keyboard and slightly below it as well, to kind of liven it up slightly, but overall it is a fairly bland looking laptop. I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing, as I've said multiple times. I mean, some people just want something that, you know, others will just not really look at too much, or it's not trying to get too much attention. So it's good for those people out there, but yeah, overall it's just kind of pretty basic, pretty bare bones. Although I'm saying that it's plastic fantastic, I'm not meaning that it's bad quality. I'm just meaning it's not made out of metal, even though it's supposed to look like metal. It's kind of like the Samsung Note 3, you know how it had that looked like it had leather on the back when really it was just plastic. It's kind of like that, but build quality wise it still feels very good for what it is. Now let's talk quickly about I/O. And on the front, all we have is a card reader. Then if we rock around to the left hand side here, we see that at the front it has a headphone jack. Then it has a microphone jack, twin USB 3.0, HDMI, and another USB that looks like USB 2, and the AC input and a secure lock. Round the back you'll find that there's nothing at all aside from the battery. And then on the right hand side we see that it has a gigabit Ethernet port, VGA, and a USB charging port, and of course the disk drive there, which is a DVD-RW I believe, but I mean, you know, who uses these anymore? Does it come out? Oh, there he goes. Yeah, for all those people. Whatever. Let's carry on then. So let's talk about the specs. So specs wise, a CPU is running a i7 4710HQ. So that's good to see. The highest I saw that go up to was 3.5 GHz. That is a quad core i7 CPU, so very good there. The screen you're seeing is an LCD 15.6 inch 1080p 60 Hz. It's pretty standard stuff there. Now, graphics. This is where it counts. NVIDIA GeForce GTX 850M. So that's a Maxwell GPU. It's pretty decent. It's kind of down the rung a little bit for the mobile GPUs, but it's okay. And VRAM wise, it comes with GDDR3 2GB. So kind of averagey there. RAM wise, we're just seeing single 8GB stick of DDR3, so that's okay. Storage is just a single 1TB 7200 RPM drive. Dimensions wise, this is coming in at 383mm wide, 249mm long, and 32 millimeters tall. And weight-wise, it's 2.6 kilograms with the battery in. So specs-wise, it does a decent enough job for an entry-level gaming laptop. So screen, this is what you're going to be looking at. So it's as I said, it's pretty standard, but it's pretty solid, honestly. I thought it was pretty decent. The brightness could go a little bit higher, and yeah, maybe slightly lacking there, maybe 10% brighter, but this isn't really too much of a drawback. The color reproduction was still really nice, and it's just a nice, solid, pretty standard 15.6-inch screen. There's not much more to say. It does a pretty decent job. Now, the sound quality was absolutely fantastic. Oh my goodness, it was good. So the sound comes from these two speakers you see here in the top. It goes crazy loud for a laptop, and the sound quality was really good by laptop standards. A lot of times laptops, when you take the volume too high, they kind of get a vibraty type noise to them, you know, a very tinny type noise. You can like hear that the whole laptop's almost vibrating. That wasn't the case with this guy at all. You could max out the volume and it was really loud, and it was really good. There wasn't any of those type of noises. It was a pretty full sound as well for a laptop. And yeah, overall it didn't sound that tinny, and it was just this really solid sound quality. Very good. I'm quite impressed. Now the keyboard. So the keyboard was made by, or developed by SteelSeries, which we've seen quite a few times now on the MSI gaming laptops. It has a great layout, pretty much everything where I want it. As I told you, I love how they put brightness and volume settings down on the arrow keys there. The only thing I would say is a little bit funny is the fact that the 0 key for the numpad over on the right hand side is kind of cut in half. I can see why they've done it, obviously, but that's about the only thing. Aside from that though, the layout is absolutely perfect. It's really nice to type on, and it just has really good feel and travel to it. Obviously it's not as good as like a mechanical keyboard, but as far as laptops go, and especially in this price point, I was very impressed. As far as how it went for gaming, it was also excellent. It just has a nice stiffness to it, which gives you a really nice feedback for a gaming laptop. And so yeah, it's a pretty decent effort. Again, it's just a solid effort, so no real complaints here. And the touchpad, once again, was very solid. It was just really fantastic, very predictable, non-sticky, which is something I just have to say, because the amount of touchpads I've tried on laptops that have got a real like stickiness to it. I think it's because they have glass on them, but so it's kind of like when you run your finger over a window, how it can kind of stick at times. I really don't like that, and this doesn't have that at all. It's got these tiny little bumps on it as well, which gives you a real nice feel to it. And to click and stuff like that, it was with the bar down the bottom, it was really good. And honestly, it's not annoying at all. Very, very easy to use, so very good there. Webcam's just standard 720p, 30 frames a second, going to get by with everything you'd probably need it for. Now to the performance. How does this thing go for actual gaming? So in lower end games, you know, lower requirement games I should say, like League of Legends and Dota 2, it's going to do that absolutely fine. Games like that, you can run it on absolutely maxed out settings. You're going to be getting around, you know, 100, 120 frames per second. So it'll do that just fine. Remember, these are all done with it plugged into the charger with that battery boost. So games like that, it'll do, and yeah, just in general low requirement games, it's going to get you by without any worries at all. When you start moving up, you start to see a few issues. But the first one we'll talk about is Intel Extreme Tuning Utility, the benchmark within that software. So it scored 462 marks, which is a decent effort, and the highest process speed I saw was 3.5 gigahertz. The next was Unigen Valley. This is on the Extreme HD setting, and before you jump up and down and say, well, that's a bit unfair to use the same one as what you do with your big desktop GPU ones. Well, yeah, that is true, but it gives you an idea compared to them where it performs. And it scored 13.7 frames a second in that, so not good at all. But that's kind of what you'd expect from this little 850M. Now, Tomb Raider. So I did something different. I tried running this at different settings to let you guys know the differences between it and sort of where it falls into. These are all done at 1080p. So on Ultimate, on Tomb Raider, it scored 23.3 frames a second average. On high, it was 42.8 frames a second average. And on normal, which is basically their medium setting, it was 73 frames a second. So if you don't mind gaming at just over 30 frames a second, then you could run this on high with no worries at all in Tomb Raider. But if you want to get above 60 frames a second, which is where I usually like it, personal opinion though, then I'd probably have to run it on normal. Now, Shadow of Mordor. Now, this is a really sort of high requirement game for the most part anyways. So, Shadow of Mordor, this is 1080p. On the Ultra preset, it was sitting at 22 frames a second. On the high preset, it was sitting at 27.8 frames a second. And on the medium, it was at 34.5 frames a second average. So, on medium, it'll get you above that 30 frames mark, but yeah, Shadow of Mordor is a pretty tough game. It really chews up a lot of graphics cards and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's kind of what I expected. However, if you do want to still run the graphics on higher settings, then you can just drop the resolution down, maybe 900p or 720p if you really want to, and then you should be able to bring the graphics quality up a little bit more. So let's talk now about heat and noise, and it did get a little bit toasty. So in the Intel Extreme Tuning Utility benchmark I did, the CPU went all the way up to 90 degrees Celsius, so that is getting quite hot. However, there was no thermal throttling whatsoever, so that's still good as well. And in the Unigine Valley Extreme HD test, the GPU went all the way up to 72 degrees Celsius, which is about where you'd see an 850M normally, so that's not too unusual. But no throttling there, so that's fine. But yeah, that is getting quite toasty. You do notice the heat somewhat. If you're playing with this on your lap, you're going to notice it gets really, really hot. And the right-hand side, if you're using, say, WASD for your game, or QWER if you're playing League or something like that, you're going to notice that your left hand does get slightly hot. It does heat up over this area quite a bit. Over this side, it's fine. But over here, where the exhaust is, exhaust vent on this side, it does get quite hot there. Now, noise-wise, it was quite noisy. Even at idle right now, you can hear the fan going somewhat. I mean, it's about as loud or slightly louder than my desktop rig at idle. But when you start gaming, yeah, it does get quite noisy. So it is a bit of a con there. But I mean, most of these gaming laptops do get quite loud. It's quite rare for me to test one that isn't, the fans don't ramp up quite a bit and get quite noisy. Battery life, you're probably going to see, I mean, this depends on use and what your brightness is and what you're doing with it, all that. But on average, you'll probably see about 2 hours, maybe more if you drop the brightness down and you're not really doing much. Less if you're, you know, especially if you're gaming. But if you have the brightness up and volume up, all that stuff, and you're watching, you know, a movie or YouTube videos and stuff like that, that'll probably bring it down a bit. So just in general, it's around 2 hours. That's pretty standard-ish for a gaming laptop. So nothing really out of the ordinary. Software, we're only going to briefly touch on this. It comes with all the MSI carry-on you're normally used to, that I've spoken about heaps of times. Honestly, I think it's a bit too much pre-installed software for my taste. The Dragon Gaming Center is pretty good though. I mean, that's somewhat useful, and Sound Blaster Cinema might also appeal to some people. I don't know. Overall, I mean, it's there. You can, if you buy one of these, you can see what you want. You can just uninstall what you don't like and see what ones you actually want to keep. Which leads us now to the conclusion and what I think of it. So as far as looks go, it's a bit bland. It's pretty plastic, fantastic in terms of exterior. It's well built, but it's yeah, just a bit on the bland side for my taste. But it'll do a decent enough job for most people out there. I think most people will find it alright. It's a bit of a fingerprint magnet, especially on the back, and yeah, on the front side, it's just a little bit on the bland side for my taste, anyways. Screen-wise, pretty standard, but solid 1080p 60Hz panel that does a pretty good job. Sound quality is very impressive, goes very loud, really good quality as far as the laptop go. I'm very impressed with it in that sense. The keyboard was really good, nice layout, a good job by SteelSeries, good feel when typing and gaming. I don't really have any complaints as far as the keyboard goes. The touchpad as well was also a joy to use, one of the best ones I've used in a while. Performance is okay. For the price point, it's kind of what you would expect. It's going to get you by if you're low-end games, lower requirement games, I should say, just fine. With higher requirement games, you're either going to need to drop down the resolution or drop down the graphics to like a medium setting, and that should be able to get you by alright. It gets quite hot, so this is something you do have to consider. It will get quite hot. This isn't out of the ordinary though. A lot of the gaming laptops I test some of them get seriously hot. But there's no throttling, so keep that in mind. And noise-wise, it does get quite noisy. I would recommend buying a laptop cooler with this guy if you want to be gaming with it, say on your lap, so you don't burn your legs. Battery life, again, is, as I said, it's about average for where it is. And overall, I just think this is a very solid all-rounder, as you heard me say quite a few times in this review. It's just a solid laptop. It does a good job in most of the areas, and it does everything you want it to, and especially at the price. I would honestly recommend this easily over the Acer Nitro. Easily. This is what I'd recommend for anyone wanting to get a really good, solid, entry-level gaming laptop. As your primary computer, if you're someone that's not so much hardcore gamer, but you need a laptop and you want to be able to game a bit on it, then sure, this one will do you just fine. Or someone who has a big powerful rig at home, but wants something that if they travel they can bring with them and it'll get them by in terms of their gaming needs. And overall, it's just a great solid laptop. I really do quite like it. It's a good job by MSI. I'm very impressed, especially for the price. Yeah, get this guy over the Nitro. That's my recommendation. Now, I hope you all enjoyed this review. It was quite fun. I like doing the laptop reviews every now and again. And this one is, yeah, quite a good one. So, thank you all for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed the review. Please subscribe to Tech Showdown if you haven't already, because it helps me out more than you know. I thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.